Good morning and welcome back to the Upzone, where understanding politics is made simple. We are your two hosts, Mr. Elmer Floyd, former House Representative for the 43rd District in the state of North Carolina, and myself, Tisha S. Waddell, former City Council Representative for the 3rd District in the city of Fayetteville, North Carolina. How goes on, Mr. Floyd?
Tish is going beautiful. Tomorrow is the 4th of July. A lot of people are going to be on the highway, with the spirit. And I hope that they don't help the North Carolina court system, is that they do it in a civil minded way. And most of all, my creditors are going to take off the 4th and the 8th, which is Monday. So
Well,
I'm
Mr.
happy.
Floyd, I
I'm happy,
understand.
Tish. I am happy.
I
No
understand. I'm
call.
very much looking forward to the 4th of July myself, because I enjoy the successive days off. So being able to be off Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Even though I work for myself, I tend to maintain a proper schedule, sir. And so it is
Well,
nice to have that time off.
I'm pleased. I mean, just 2 days off from my creditors, and
Hilarious.
then again, I looked at it, and I'm thankful for the postal system now, because it had an article wherein that there was a lot of mail that is being backlogged and not being delivered on time. That's some of my bills.
I understand.
So I'm blessed.
It's nice to not have that problem.
Yeah, I'm blessed. The postal systems are helping me, and the holidays is helping. But really,
Absolutely.
on a very sincere note, I just wanted to just give a shout out to Way Two, which is a project on Murchison Road, which is at 2400. That's going to help our youth, as we go through the summer and during the academic year. A lot of money being spent on that. And then teach there was a meeting Monday with the movers and shakers in the political arena in Cumberland County at Friendship. If
So
you
I know
didn't
you were there. If the movers and shakers were there, I know you were there.
Yeah, I mean, no, 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 no. You would think that they were walking on water
Why
with
you
the
say
way,
that, Mr. Floyd? What was the meeting about?
it was a community meeting, and they had most of the candidates and those persons that's running for political office, and they provided, their name and ranking, what they are doing, and whatnot, and just amazed with the comments that they expressed and what they was doing and how they was able to do and not do, and most that not do, but say that they at least try to
Tell me
do.
what you mean. What are some of the things you heard, sir?
Well, that I tried to introduce certain pieces of legislation that I couldn't get it heard, and so there was a I couldn't actually do anything. But I want to let you know that I did try, but moving things in a electoral body requires compromise.
And
And
Mr. Floyd, that is the truth of the matter. It requires compromise,
yes,
and it requires the capacity to be able um, to esteem others over yourself. And when I say others, I mean your community over your own personal interests, and not just the community that reflects your ideology, but the best interest of the community overall.
but what I like about this, I mean, just listen to that minority candidates and political person running for political office. You would think that they are really bamming, for economic opportunities within our community. And when you look at the city council, the county board of commission, the board of education, you look at the city manager, the county manager, you look at the board of education superintendent. They're all minorities. I just leave it at that. Now, you
So,
know.
do you feel like that says that well, I'm thinking about Kathy Jensen as I'm having this conversation with you. Does that mean that we need, in your estimation, uh, somebody that's not a minority in these positions of leadership? But
I,
she's a minority too because she's a female, I guess. Yeah.
well, I'm just saying that when we look around you, I looked at Kathy as we talk about. I looked at Kathy, and very strong candidate, and I look at Mario as a very strong candidate. But when I saw when I perceived that he had a relationship with Cape Fear Invisible, I said to myself, I thought that person was strong enough uh, to 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 uh, to run for city council uh, without that kind of relationship, because that group has not set well in the minority community. And as our program goes, I share with you more about the Cape Fear Invisible. So, it's a wondering. The question of it is is there growth in the minority community, or as your friend always say to you and have said to you, a lot of us sit in the fit in.
Right. And that's what I'd like to see, Mr. Floyd, as we look at the landscape of candidates that are shaping up. I would like to see somebody who has just a completely different perspective, because there's an old adage that says if you keep doing what you've always done, expecting to get a different result, that's the definition of insanity. And I think we can package our message differently, but it's still the same old stuff. And I want to see somebody come with some fresh stuff.
Well, that was I mentioned to you last week that I attended the show alumni luncheon
Hmm.
banquet, and Reverend Stackhouse, he mentioned you have a vision, but you're using the same concept. So your end result for your vision is going to be the same.
Right.
And so when I ran for the North Carolina House, mine was a new representative, a new attitude, and a new vision for change. I took that. And then the next step that I looked at in my decision making process was my constituents, and then my conscience, and then my caucus. But what is happening now is the reverse. Your caucus come first, you know, and your constituents might come second. But that's
Yeah.
how, and that's the problem that if we look at it, the problem that Tillis faced, the problem that Kurt, our present chairman of the County Board of Commission, and what I did as a representative, and four other representatives that was challenged by our party for working across the aisle. But you expect for Tillis and others to join you, but you penalize those persons who work across the aisle.
Right.
So that's a concern that we have in our part. But we don't have to worry about that, T, because the black representative don't worry about it, T. They gonna get right in. Well, I'm gonna ask you a question,
Okay.
and I'm sure over about where you stayed. Have you ever seen a row of ducks as they walk?
Yes.
The
One
mother duck
behind the
had a little
other.
small. We're gonna do that, so you don't have to worry about it, T.
Mr. Floyd, and interestingly enough, I saw a video with a mother duck and her ducklings, and the ducklings were walking behind the mother duck, and there was one of those storm grates. And the ducks in succession were walking across this storm grate and falling into the storm grate. And this was a real video. And the mother duck was walking, and each of them would walk across and fall in. And when she realized what was going on, there wasn't anything she could do. But each of these ducks followed one behind the other and just fell into that storm grate. And as we were watching this, I heard my husband say, "Oh, those are some dead ducks. Those ducklings are going to die." And to your point, I think when we blindly follow behind the person in front of us, we risk walking into a storm grate and drowning to death,
Well, that's
because you got to think about your path for yourself.
that's why that's why when you look at it, Teach, from a party standpoint of view, okay, we don't have to offer the minority community anything,
Right.
because we know that that percentage is going to follow that information that comes not from 301, but come from 701, whatever that zip code up there in Raleigh, 701. So it doesn't matter. We don't have to. But when we sit in the room with our percentage of of a elected official, we can lobby that percentage to increase minority investment or whatever you want to call. But we just go in and sit in, as my friend Archie McMillan said, we just go into the meeting to sit in to fit in. I mean,
But Mr. Floyd,
when
let me ask you this. So, and I know that it's a very touchy conversation because when we think about the injustices that have been leveraged against and on top of people that look like you and I, it makes it very difficult to separate the fact that we look like this from other factors, right? Like it's a hard thing to do. Is it the best practice for an elected to enter into their position with the idea of serving the needs of people that look like them? Or is it best practice of an elected to enter into a position saying that their objective is to rectify the system that has that has allowed these injustices to continue to be stacked? So in essence, that helps. It's a systemic change versus I'm gonna just go in and I'm gonna try and do this, this, and this for my community. You know what I'm saying? Like as an example,
yeah,
being able to increase the number of contractors that look like us. That was a huge push in the city, right? So was that the best way to go about it, or is there another way to achieve that leverage for all people?
I think, Tish, that one thing that is confusing to a lot of people, for instance, my district was House District 43.
Yes.
That was a minority district.
And that
So
was intentional because it was intended to ensure that people had representation that reflected their culture.
that is correct. So my first priority, Tish, as an elected official, was
Right,
not to the governor of the state of North Carolina or to
right,
the House Speaker, was, as I mentioned to you earlier, my constituents. And my
right,
believe me, Tish, was in a tier 1 community.
right,
So before I moved them out of a tier 1 community, I used my one vote that I had to leverage when it was appropriate to make that change, to
right,
enhance the economic opportunity in my community. But
right,
today, we look at what my caucus feel.
right,
And if you look at it, I think Mr. Reed mentioned that I told him that I got $100 from my caucus. He said, "Well, you got more than what I got," and he
right.
was
I remember that. I remember
minority
that.
leader. Okay,
I
so
remember that.
they don't give us any money to help us run, but they come back in our community and say to you and others that Floyd or Senator, now Chairman of the County Board, is not a true Democrat.
Right,
But but when you look at North Carolina counties of 100, the majority of them are red.
right,
You have about 23 of those counties that are blue. And Cumberland County today is about 37%. So we have lost that leverage that we had. And if we continue to treat minority candidates, and y'all always say the
hold on,
minority
Miss.
that minority candidates did not turn out.
Mr. Floyd, hang on just 1 second. I'm sorry. Hold on just 1 second. I apologize.
Mhm.
You talk to the people.
Okay. But that's our problem. We say that the minority vote doesn't turn out. But the minority community over the last several years have looked at what the party has done. We'll look at in 2020 when we had Representative Harley to run for lieutenant governor. Very little support from the party. And we also had two other young ladies to run statewide. Very little support given to them. Turn back into 2024, we had three Menards, we had three persons to run, and they had an opportunity to provide funding from a PAC. They
Right.
didn't give any money, and we had one person to run for the appeal court judge, didn't get any money. But one of the three that didn't get any money lost by 2%. And now that person, and now we are seeing that they turned the board of election over to the auditor. If we
Right.
had invested some money in her election, maybe they would have to find another place to put the board of election. So,
Right.
so we do it to ourselves, Madam Waddell. But you want to hold me accountable, but you're not giving me anything.
Right.
Politics, which we don't realize, and I'll be through. Politics is one word: negotiation.
Right. Miss Floyd, I apologize for having to walk away. You know, when you run a home-based business, I think people think that they can just come to your office at any time.
Well,
So
but
please forgive me. But I think you're right. I think that first and foremost, we need to do a better job of in the community of raising the expectancy that people are going to have to um, they're going to have to show improve. They're going to have to show improve. And I think that when it comes, and that's why I asked you the question about identity politics, because I think identity politics are very dangerous because, Mr. Floyd, they create a culture where identity becomes all that matters. And then there's no requirement for you to show improve. And identity is not just about what we look like on the outside. It's not about our gender. It's not about our ethnicity. It can also be about our political affiliation. Anything that can be used as an identifier that automatically qualifies or disqualifies a candidate in your estimation is dangerous. And so I would say to the vast majority of people who apply that ideology, like if you're still voting straight ticket, you are a danger to this community because that means you're not really doing your research. Because like let's talk about, and I know we're jumping all the way to the national spectrum, but let's talk about what's going on with Tom Tillis, right? So, Mr. Floyd, what's happening? And we can even tie this to what happened with you and what happened with Commissioner Deviere. When you are a part of a party and you work across the aisle or you don't get into lockstep with the leader of that party, in the instance of you and Deviere, the leader of the party was the then governor. In the instance of Tillis, the leader of the party is the now president. If you don't get into lockstep, you become the object of their disdain. And that cannot happen. We cannot continue to permit as a people parties to outweigh the work. We just cannot continue to permit that.
well, teach you are correct. I mean, we have a responsibility. Is that I looked at my community, and we have an African American university, which is Fayetteville State
Mhm.
University. The Democrats was in charge of the North Carolina General Assembly for 140 plus years.
Mhm.
We have five black African American colleges in the system.
Mhm.
We received less funding, but
Right.
was able to negotiate with the party of the other is to help us with projects and funding for Fayetteville State. I
Right.
remember Teach, when we had the North Carolina Promise, they came to me, the chancellor of the university at that time, said that they didn't support the North Carolina Promise. And I'm looking at the chancellor, wait a minute, your enrollment is based on student growth, your enrollment.
Yeah.
So if
And
you're
this
going
was
to
before the new chancellor, right?
yes, yeah,
Because
and
the
that's
new chancellor has implemented that North Carolina.
anything that you can give them, whether it's at the when you look at it, Teach, think about it. Now you talk about North Carolina Promise, 500 one semester, $500 second semester, and we help you doing this for 4 years. Now think about this now. And you said that it would the argument that they had that it would lower the caliber of student. Well, Teach, are you going to hire a person to work in your company that have to be to work? He lives in Rayford. Okay. He lives in Rayford, but he wanted to work with you and arrive every day at 8 o'clock. Let's be
Mm.
reasonable. Can he do it? No, he can't. Okay. So my thing of it is when you look at it, when you look at it now, the university is growing. When they look at charter
And their
school,
matriculation rate is improving, and the
yeah,
matriculation rate is the number of people that start and finish. And
finish.
Mr. Floyd, and that right there is the objective. It's not just who starts, it's who finishes. And there were all of this, it was a holistic approach from my understanding that the chancellor implemented in order to create this design. And interestingly enough, I was just speaking to somebody the other day, and this is an adult learner. And this adult learner has just enrolled at Fayetteville State University. And the feedback that I received from her is that the culture of Fayetteville State University is such that once you can get somebody on the phone to have a conversation with them, they are very helpful. They are very friendly. And she had a different expectation going into this because of what you usually experience with enrollment and the whole process at an HBCU. And that speaks volumes, Mr. Floyd. They have created a culture at Fayetteville State of of success. They're
Well,
creating a culture of student success at Fayetteville State.
well, you look at when you look at the chancellor don't walk around with his head up in the air. You wouldn't know that he was a
Wouldn't
chancellor.
even know. Yeah.
You wouldn't know unless somebody walked by and said, "Hi, chancellor."
Right.
Okay, because he doesn't carry himself with that air that
Right.
I am the. So that's our problem, Chief. That is our problem. And and I give you another example. We talked about this before, and it's about how they see us as minority and how they look at Tillis, and what he did.
Mhm.
And I shared it with a friend of mine. I said, "You are not going to receive the order of the long leaf pine."
Mhm.
And I said, because you have a lot of people that are hangovers from Cooper that went over to Stein.
Yeah, and if we're talking about Mr. Evans, he pissed Cooper off when he refused to run against Kirk Deviere.
Yes,
Or at
and
least
they
that's the rumor. Let me say this. I don't know how he made him feel personally, but that is the rumor that has circulated about this instance. And if his behavior is any predicator to this rumor, most certainly there seems to be that there could be some truth to it, because when you told this governor no, or you bucked what this governor's plan was, you became the subject of
well, when you
you
look
were
at that,
primary.
and you look at that, and he said no. Okay, he said no, but they said we gonna fund. You don't have to worry about being funded. We are going to fund your campaign. Now, on the other hand of that, Tish, on the other hand of that, now they said to him that you need 30 years of state experience, but the orders say community.
Right.
Okay, community. Now, when you look at that, now please, T, you had the district attorney, Billy West, who was part of the governor's transitional team. You had the top person in the state Democrat Party, who was Robert Reed, wrote a
Mhm.
letter in support of Charles, and that had no bearing. Those two persons could not persuade the governor to give Commissioner Evans the order of the long lead pine. Now, remember, this is the district attorney that was
Yeah.
on your transitional team and the House minority leader that you need to help push your agenda forward. You know what they said, Tish? In summary, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give you this. Although you, I mean, when those persons send something forward, Tish, it should catch your attention because you have to work together. It's just a piece of paper that you're signing.
Right.
So that's the problem that minority community, uh, face, and we are going to face a bigger problem with this beautiful what's it called? Beautiful.
Big beautiful bill.
Yeah, that. Yeah,
Well,
we're gonna face.
before we get into the big beautiful bill, let's talk about the Board of Elections shakeup. So there's now a Republican majority in control as of the 27th of June. The five-member board shifted from Democrat to Republican majority, three Republicans, two Democrats, and those appointed will be sworn in on the 22nd of this month. Linda DeVore is now the chair of this board, and she has identified key goals of streaming absentee and early voting process and improving staff coordination, learning from the delays that were seen in the 2024 election. Mr. Floyd, so there was also a law that was passed in December. There was this law that was passed in December, which transferred county board chair appointment power from the governor to the state auditor. And that includes county election boards. It also bars independent and third party voters from reserving seats for the two major parties, which I think kind of sucks as an unaffiliated registered voter. It really stinks that we are not permitted to sit in these seats, but that's another conversation for another day. However, we do see that at a broader state context, this same legal mechanism that changed county boards also shifted the state board of elections to a Republican majority of 3-2. These appointments were upheld temporarily by an appeals court, allowing Auditor Bullock to act while constitutional challenges proceed. Democrats, including Governor Stein, contend it's unconstitutional. It's an unconstitutional Republican power grab, but the Court of Appeals allowed the changes to go forward pending further review.
But I'm asking you a question, Tish. Who is
Mhm.
on the Court of Appeal? Who controls the Court of Appeal? And you can move on from there, Tish.
I think it's under Republican control.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, madam.
Yeah.
Please, go down.
So, really, what people need to be watching for is whether or not Ms. DeVore and her colleagues improve efficiency in the absentee and early voting process. We need to keep our eyes on the ongoing legal challenges and potential appeals in both state and federal courts. And we need to be watching for statewide politics, especially ongoing disputes in the North Carolina Supreme Court race between Riggs and Griffin. Hasn't that been settled? The
Yeah.
Supreme Court race? Okay, I thought so. So yeah, that's off the table. That's not an issue anymore. Basically, this change is a part of a broader strategy backed by a law that reassigns that appointment power from the governor to the state auditor. It's my understanding, Mr. Floyd, that our state auditor is very busy right now. That he and not just with appointments, but that he's very busy with some audits that are long overdue. Have you been hearing some of that chatter also?
Yes. Yes. Now there's one that may occur here in Cumberland County. Two that may occur here in Cumberland County. I won't mention that.
I won't either.
But the point that's there, Tish, if we had invested my party just a little bit of support to Miss Holmes, she may have won, as I mentioned earlier in our program, she may have won the auditor seat. Now we're all up in a roar. When you didn't help finance the person, now you see the after effect. But that's
But let me ask you a question, because I don't know where I heard this, and this is purely speculative and purely rumorville. However, if it pans out, there's an implication here that's very important. It was my understanding that Rumorville was reporting that the prior auditor had a relationship with a current House representative at one point. Had you
well,
heard that?
it wasn't a House member. The rumor deal was it was a one of the council of state, and I'll move on from that. Okay,
Council of State.
I move on from that, Tish. I'm just responding to your question.
No, Mr.
What-
Floyd, it was a current House representative. I'm talking about the
Yeah,
former
current House
auditor.
representative. Yes,
Current
but
House representative.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's well, we understand when you get this rumor and it comes from different parts and different parts of the community.
Right.
But,
And I want to say this. I want to tell our audience, and I'm not going to throw names yet. I want to wait and see if it pans out. But I want to say why that is potentially important, so that people don't think we're just talking about somebody's dating life. This individual has ties to some of the people that are reportedly potentially being audited now, or a part
Well,
of an audit process, which would indicate that those ties may have withheld the audit process at one point, but now because that person is no longer in that position, and someone of a different party and a complete, like a different entity is there, that those audits may be moving forward. Again, all speculative, but certainly if this moves forward, very interesting.
that's now what happened with a new piece of legislation.
Hmm.
It gives the auditor today that they can look at anyone, nonprofit or private citizen, that receive
Receives.
funds
Yep,
from the state,
that's
that the
right.
auditor can have a conversation, with them.
That's right.
And that is what is taking place now with one of the programs that had received money from the state, the city, and the county. And this body, it may elect a new president or board of directors chair this month. But I hope that her sorority sisters would talk to her to ask her before she assumed the role, is to get an auditor before she walks into a hornet's nest.
Well, Mr. Floyd, you spoke a bit about the support of the party for particular candidates. We are hearing there's a report that has come out now that Kim Hardy intends to, who is an associate professor of social work at Fayetteville State University and second vice chair of the North Carolina Democrat Party, has officially launched her campaign for North Carolina's 7th congressional district seat in the November 3rd, 2026 election. Mr. Floyd, what are your thoughts on
Well, Tish, if you go back, I had the opportunity to run against her with the assistance of the governor and a campaign financed by that that organization of over $1 million to unseat me.
that?
So I understand, so I do have some knowledge about her as a candidate,
Right.
uh, same as they did with Senator.
But she was not able to hold it. So if I'm not mistaken, and you remind me if I'm wrong, she was able to defeat you in the primary, but she was not able to hold that seat against Republican Diane Wheatley.
Well, that's because again, the party, at the governor level, they was able to help fund her because
But
the
their
governor.
only objective was to get you out. It wasn't to necessarily get her in, because there was not that same drive and push when it came to the general election. So, Mr. Floyd, here's my question, because the partisan lean on the district that she's looking to run in, currently the incumbent is Republican Representative David Rouser, who was first elected in 2014. So he's got incumbency. He was reelected in 2024 with approximately 58 to 59% of the vote. And the Cook Political Report rates this district as R+7, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, means it leans 7 percentage points more Republican than Democrat. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
So this could be a duplicative effort of what we saw at the House level. I wonder what will set her apart in this election and what type of support she will get. Now, Hardy argues that Roger is not representing the people and their interests, particularly on accountability for the Trump administration. She aims to build a broad coalition with hopes of appealing to independents, moderate Republicans, and Democrats. And political analysts note it would take a very strong Democrat turnout or a wave to shift the district um, in her favor. Mr. Floyd, what are your thoughts?
Well, let's look at it from a standpoint of view. The person that ran the last election
Hmm.
did not fare well. I think the percentage point, was 50 plus, way above the plus.
Hmm.
My seatmate ran this term prior to that. He did not fare well and did not get the support
Okay.
from the party.
And who
So
was
what?
that?
This is Charles Graham out of Robertson County. Now, remind
Okay.
you, Robertson County was a blue county until the president stopped through there.
Mm-hmm.
Now Robertson County is red.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when you look at that, and you now, William Bristol is the representative in Bladen County. That's next door to Robertson County. That's red.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When you look at New Hanover County down there and Columbus County, that person is the majority leader, I believe, it in the House. That's red. When
Mm-hmm.
you look at New Hanover County, that's red. And you look at Cumberland County, we are a tri-county, but they say now we that the road through any office comes through Cumberland County
Mm-hmm.
because they consider us as a blue county. But today, if you look at the statistics, if the Democrats stay home, you might have a Republican mayor and you might have Republicans throughout if the
Yeah.
Democrats stay home.
Yeah.
So, so, so when you look at it, can she raise the money at the national level? And the national level, that's going to help fund the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Are going to pour money into a 50 plus seat? Are they going to actually pour money in there? But she does. She did.
And that's
She
one of
did.
the, look, that's one of the things that City View highlighted was that she is going to have to she needs significant fundraising and a lot of grassroots organization to counter Rauscher's well-funded campaign.
It's going to be. It's going to be. Now, what she would realize is the
Mm-hmm.
same thing that as her role as the second vice president of the state Democrat Party, as those two candidates ran for statewide offices, and one of the person wife that propelled her to where she is today,
Mm-hmm.
and that she did not provide any, they did not provide any funds for her election. Whether or
Okay.
not the same group will be, which is Kate for Invisible, will help her in this effort. And so she has a real tough road to travel there. But I wish her the best,
Absolutely.
in her effort, because every person has a right to run. But one thing about my party, they know how to pump you up.
Yeah. I
They
listen, and I have to tell people sometimes because Mr. Floyd, people still reach out to us, and they have good things to say about us to us, right? And sometimes I have to tell them, I hear y'all, but I can't get excited about what you're saying to me about me because talk is cheap.
yeah, I mean,
Talk is
there's
cheap.
a lot. There's a lot. When you look at it, she is a faculty member of Fayetteville State, which is going to require a lot of her time. But if you look at the race and the way that the district is set up, from her house to get to Beaver Dam is 45 minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
So
From
what does
her,
that mean? Because a lot of people are not familiar with the district and the what that proximity
I'm
means.
just saying, because she lives at the bottom of the district per se.
Mm-hmm.
So just to get to Beaver Dam, you know, is a is a is a distance within itself.
So are you saying she's got a lot of ground to cover?
She got a lot of ground to cover and a
Mhm.
lot to build. Commissioner Evans, he tried that, as I mentioned before. My seatmate tried it and was not successful, because the party, they're going to look at those numbers, and those numbers is greater than what you refer to as a toss-up district.
Right.
The number
Right.
greater. So now she's the second vice president, I mean chairperson. She might be able to receive some money, but I just don't see the party pouring in millions of dollars. Not this Democrat Party,
Okay.
pour millions of dollars. And then again, it's not like the PAC money that the governor had a chance to which he controlled that PAC money through and he left that with, I think it's Morgan Jackson, to fund it. So her money is going to have to come from donation from state and national
Mm-hmm.
to run. So that it's going to be a good. It's going to be very interesting to
To
see.
see how it all, yeah, how it all flows.
I just wish her the best, but don't count on. Well, I just wish her the best. From my experience, you know, and again, Madam Waddell, they know how to pimp us up. I
Yeah,
said first, but now I use the word pimp us.
absolutely. Mr. Floyd, so now let's go ahead and talk about Tom Tillis's decision to retire. So he made his announcement June 29th, citing growing political polarization and a desire to spend more time with family. He confirmed he will not run for re-election in 2026. His departure came just after he voted against advancing Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill. And he was only one of two GOP senators who opposed it. He warned the legislation would strip tens of billions of dollars from North Carolina's Medicaid in the and he also warned that it would shutter rural hospitals. He described the Senate vote as hasty and amateurish, expressing frustration at the process and its effects on vulnerable Americans. He has clashed with Trump. Trump has labeled Tillis a talker and complainer, not a doer, and mobilized to recruit a loyal MAGA primary challenger. As a matter of fact, Mr. Floyd, I saw a Facebook post from Mark Robinson, that was a post of Donald Trump's reshared that said exactly that. So tell me what your thoughts are about this announcement.
Well, it's no different than, as we mentioned earlier in our program, what happened to Senator Olivia, now Chairman of the County Board of Commissioners, and also myself. When you and also four other candidates that was primary by the former governor, it's no different between the Republican Party and the Democrat Party. If you
Right.
don't walk in line, they're going to primary you. And the same reason that Trump indicated that he would possibly may endorse another candidate. On the other hand, you have Elon Musk, who said that those person that voted for this, that he was going to help them. He was going to run somebody against them because
Right.
they look at the amount of debt that we will pay in the next 10 years. So it's a thing that if you step outside and want
Hmm.
to work across the aisle, you're going to
You get your
be.
head popped.
Now, when Tillis became Speaker of the House, okay, when he served 2 terms as Speaker of the House while I was there.
Hmm.
When I arrived in Raleigh, as I mentioned to you earlier, my thing was a new representative, a new attitude, and a new vision for change. So
Right.
I was asked by my party to vote for Joe Hackley. Well, I'm looking at the numbers. The numbers said that Tillis had about, I think, was 64 or 67 votes,
Yeah.
in the House. And then there was other Democrats who said that they was going to vote for Tillis.
Right.
Or they got alarmed because when they called for the roll call vote, the vote, I said Tillis.
Right.
Joe Biden couldn't
Shocked
win.
everybody.
Yeah, Joe Biden couldn't win. He could not win no way.
And
See,
there
but
was no reason for you to make an enemy with somebody that you would need to work with.
what I looked at these was before we adjourned, Joe Hackley had the opportunity to bring our LAs on at a full-time staff.
Hmm.
The hours that they work to be compensated.
Hmm.
He did not do that. I mean, this was the last hour before the changeover.
Right.
He didn't do it. So I said, well, if you didn't do this for the LAs, then how are you actually going to do this, for the party? So I
Right.
voted. So I voted for Tillis. But if you look at the LAs now, they're pretty
Yeah.
comfortable. Not the best in the world, but they're
Yeah.
greater than they were before Joe Hackley left. Okay.
Yeah.
So, so this is what you had to do, G. You had to leverage it. Yeah. And so by the Republicans saw that I'm willing to work across the aisle, I was willing to work across the aisle and was willing to bring back revenue for my community.
Absolutely.
And that's what I did. So with that, it's the thing that like in Tiller's case, he said, "Hey, I'm through. I don't have to
Yeah.
take this." And really, with Tiller serving 2 years, he is already, if you look at it, he is invested. You know,
Yeah.
there's a retirement plan for him.
Right.
There's a retirement plan for Tillis at the state level. There's
There's
a
health
social security
insurance.
for
Yeah.
Tillis at the state level, and he also retired from one of the corporate America. So Tillis, I mean, for the financial wise, why not spend time with your family? You know,
Absolutely.
what I say to people, and if I say to people is that, I have members of my family that have some unique habits. Okay.
Yeah.
I can't help them unless they're willing to help themselves.
Amen, Mr. Floyd. You hit the nail on the head. Yeah.
I can't help them. I mean, and that's how I see my community. You
Yeah.
cannot help our community unless it's willing to help themselves. And that's through change and not lip service. As an
Yeah.
example, why would you introduce a bill uh, that you know that's going to fail? That's
Mr.
not even
Floyd,
going to get.
because it looks good, because it looks good for you to be able to talk about it later. And some people only care about the optics. Now, we put a question up on our Facebook page earlier this week, and we asked our audience, who would you like to see on our podcast? And one of the names that came back was Dr. Antonio Jones. And so we reached out and extended an invitation to him. And we actually have him in the lobby waiting to come in. So, Mr. Floyd, very quickly, I'd like to introduce him. I want us to give him about 5 minutes or so just to chat with us. There were two questions that were posted, Mr. Jones. I'd love to ask him those two questions and then let him share with us anything that he'd like to share. Now, we'll bring him in and then we'll talk about all of that. So, Dr. Antonio Jones, come on in the room. Let's see. We should have him coming in. There we go. So, Mr. Jones, if you can go ahead and unmute. Hello, sir.
Hello, can you all hear me?
We can hear you
Yes.
just fine. So, Dr. Antonio Jones made his way to the Fayetteville City Council as a result of my resignation. He was the person who the council decided should replace my butt in that seat, and he served until the end of that term and ran for reelection. And it was, I think, a 6 point vote difference between he and Mario Benavente.
Mhm.
Mr. Jones served, I think, ethically. I didn't see anything that was too jarring that came forth. But I'd love to hear from you, Mr. Jones. First of all, thank you for on such short notice taking our invitation. You were specifically requested by Mr. A.L. Van, which is so interesting because do you know A.L. Van?
A little, a little. I
Okay, okay.
just interacting through the community, so that's why I'm like, wow, you just
Yeah,
never know who's watching you.
he specifically asked us to have you on, and he had two questions for you. He wanted to know what have you been up with, what have you been up to since you left the Fayetteville City Council, and what are your plans for the future? And so, in as much as you'd like to share those things, you have the floor, sir.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you both for what you've done, and Miss Waddell, thank you. Just thank you. That goes without saying. And Mr. Floyd, thank you. You know, when I was out there on the campaign trail, you were consistently encouraging me, giving me tips, things of that nature. And I don't take that lightly, simply because you've chartered some waters that I can actually swim in, where you probably had to tread the water uh, to get there. So thank you for that. But since that time on council, a lot has transpired. That time when I was appointed, it was actually a godsend, and I'll condense this very quickly. That time was very key, where God was shifting me and saying, okay, I've called you specifically to the governmental realm, and just whatever happened, it just landed there. So I wanted to, I wanted to make sure that our district was continually represented well, following in your footsteps.
Thank
Uh,
you.
I really did. 'Cause we have an informed district, in my opinion. I mean,
We sure do.
we do.
That's
So
why I tell Mr. Floyd, I don't know who those people are that he's talking about that aren't paying attention, because our people over here, they paying attention.
they do. And so from that time, I knew God gave me the time that I could actually spend even more time in my community. I've already been in work doing so. So since that time, I didn't stop. I served as our vice chair of our Fayetteville City Planning Commission. So I worked there for a couple of years, and that was a tremendous experience because I was able to educate some of the public on the processes of it, before it gets to council, if it gets to council, things of that nature. So I was very instrumental in that aspect. And even on the county side, the youth are close to my heart. I was the vice chair of the North Carolina Department of Public Safety's Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. And basically it's the arm of that department here for Cumberland that helps fund our youth programming. And you can see with everything that's going on, that was a tremendous responsibility for me. And I'm glad to say that hearing some of the statistics, I've served on that board for about 6 years, and God be the glory, this is not me. I was doing such a good job that our county commissioners a few years back, they actually voted to keep me on beyond the term. It wasn't specifically in the bylaws, so they said, no, we want Jones to stay on. So I don't take that lightly, but I use that opportunity to engage, to find out what our youth need, not only the youth, our parents and things of that nature. In addition to that, I am currently still a state political coordinator. To make a long story short, I do advocacy work with our local officials, our state officials, and our Washington delegation as well. Just came from Washington a few weeks ago. So I'm extremely invested in the community. And one thing that councils taught me was, I was always invested in the community, always doing things. Council allowed you to do certain things on the policy level. However, you do not need a title to do other things. And for an example, I was fortunate to help 5 neighborhoods get speed control options, speed bumps, things of that nature, signage. And these things may seem to some minute, but these are grassroots efforts, in my opinion, that I don't need 5 to stay alive. I don't need anybody else to vote with me to do it. I hear what the community is saying, and I try to make that happen using the knowledge that I have. And so with that being said, I never stopped serving our community. I'm always behind the scenes. I was blessed to be honored by our peers with City View and the PwC Power of Giving Award, and I received the presidential, my wife and I, the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award. I do a lot of work. I'm a kind of behind the scenes person, but I also know that sometimes, as you all both know, sometimes you need to step up and lead. And I have no issues with that whatsoever. And so with that being said, I've heard a clarion call and I've yielded to that. So Mr. Floyd, Mrs. Waddell, I want to let your viewers know, listeners, that I will be running for District 3 City Council. So I have made up my mind. I will be doing that. I feel
Congratulations.
there's a need there because whoever our mayor is, we're going to have a strong council, you all. And I won't.
So let me ask you a question while you say that. And congratulations on your decision. And I'm looking forward to seeing how you run your race and how you serve our district again. Mr. Jones, let me ask you this. You mentioned that we'll need a strong council regardless of who the mayor is. What are your thoughts on what you'd like to see in terms of character and in terms of content in our next mayor in the city of Fayetteville?
That's a good question. I'm really big on, for lack of a better word, representation. It seems really simple, right? At face value, it's like you're representing a city, you're representing a state, as Mr. Floyd did, and you represented us as well. I think that's one of the aspects some people lose. And what I mean by that is this. One of the things in 22, when I went to Washington, one of the things that pierced my heart was to hear that federal folks were basically looking at our city council members, not members, at the meetings in a negative way. And it continued on. And even now, you hear some of that. And so I would like to see a level of professionalism that actually coincides with representation. Let me clarify. That does not mean that we're not going to be our authentic self. However, I think anybody that's running for office, we need to realize you can't just go wild whenever you want to. There is a level of respect.
Decorum.
There's a decorum. Thank you. That we have to have. I mean, and it doesn't take away from who you are. So I would like to see that. Number two, I would like to see, in regards to our leaders, someone that can actually, when I say hear the voice of the community, all of the community. And I know not all 210,000, I mean just here, not just a few. And we have to be careful when we say I heard from the community and it's 6 people, 8 people, 12 people. While it's a sect of the population, it's not all. So I think we have to be careful with that. Number 3, someone that has to have the ability to build consensus. That's going to be big. While some may go in
and
with
not just 6, but to really get the whole council on board.
Absolutely. And so I think with that being said, we have to how can I say this?
Plain and clear.
Everybody at that table has a vote. And I think even sometimes in the public, we see that seat mayor as, or they can do this, they can do that. No, not the case. And I know you know that as well. That is not the case. And so if, for me, I would like to see a very clear and distinct effort by whomever the incoming mayor is to show our citizens what that looks like. Not saying anybody in the past anything like that. You asked me specifically about coming in. So that's one of the aspects that I want to do, and really to make sure. And lastly, I'll be quiet. That can build relationships, people. And I know Mr. Floyd can speak to this probably greater than any of us. If I'm gonna just say it bluntly, if we do not foster as a leader, oh my gosh, hold on. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If we don't learn to foster relationship, create relationships with individuals on the state level, federal level, we're going to have some issues. If we are disliked, not because of our views, not because I'm talking about because of how we interact with individuals, that's going to be a challenge. So I would like to see someone that can actually be able to function at those levels. And again, it does not mean that you're changing who you are, but again, it comes with the territory you are. It comes with the territory. So
yes. Mr. Floyd, you have any questions for our guest?
Thank you for coming on with this, short notice, as I've spoken with you on many occasions there. So Godspeed, continue to move forward, and remember one thing, that as an elected official, I know people talk, you're not running for mayor. Okay. So the mayor has a responsibility for the whole 210. You are running first for your district. And then through that, you leverage the change by working with the other individual districts. And that's what we have to remind ourselves of. You first running in the district, and you take that and you leverage it for growth through your other 6 or 7 members.
Let me, I need to interrupt y'all because I'm laughing because I'm looking at the comments, and I love our audience, and Antonio Jones, I know you will not take offense to when I say this, but Pamela Carter put up excellent choice for D3. Now, I'm not running for District 3, Antonio. So when I say what I'm getting ready to say, let me preface with that. She said, excellent choice for D3. No one better. Best of luck, Dr. Jones. I want to remind Pam Carter that she is talking to she talking on our podcast, and you cannot discount me like that, Miss Carter. You can say just as good, but you cannot discount me and say no one better, Miss Carter. And I'm just being silly, y'all, but that made me giggle. So when I started laughing, that's what I was laughing at. But go ahead. I agree with her that you are an excellent choice for representation for our district. And I don't know who else will come after you to announce their candidacy, but most certainly I look forward to hearing more about what it is that you are hearing from our district about what's important to them and what they want to see done through you in that position. So Mr. Floyd, I'm sorry for being giggly, but that was the that's what made me laugh.
Mhm. Yeah, and
um
you're right, and that's the part. And I know I'll be quiet for my time. That's one part I am looking forward to is engaging with our particular district to see what concerns they have. And again, I did learn in that short period of time, very astute district, and I love it. I love a challenge, and I do want to say this. I need to clear something up. I really, really do. You all know I operate at a high level. I don't get down on people's level, but I want to make something extremely clear that it was alluded that uh, I how can I put this, depended on flyers. Let me shut that down first and foremost. Here's the interesting part: the mailers that went out. Here's
okay.
the interesting part.
Did
My
you have a mailer that went out?
my this was during the last running, so I just want to bring some clarity because my particular camp, we did not send out any personal mailers ourselves. These were organizations that supported me. What we did do, we sent out some things, but what we did do, we did beat the pavement. And so I wanted to share that because it was alluded as if we didn't. Man, our team was out there. My children, my son, my wife, my children, we were out there. I don't have any issues doing that. We did that, and Mr. Floyd actually helped us over near Tiffany Pines and MacArthur Road with the light situation. That took a lot of petitions. When we got the speed humps, a lot of petitions. So I wanted to clarify that. I usually don't address certain things, but I want to make that extremely clear. I'm so grassroots, it's ridiculous. And I have a saying, and if you laugh before, Miss Waddell, you'll laugh now, and I'll be quiet. I have a saying about myself, and my wife looks at me all the time. I said, do not let the smooth taste fool you.
Baby, right there. Right there. Well, Mr. Jones, I want to thank you for coming on and thank you for sharing that with our audience and for sharing your announcement. I'll be praying for you. I know that you're a fellow believer. I'll be praying for you, and I hope that you'll be doing the same for us. Make sure that
Yes,
you tell a friend to watch your segment on our podcast to help us be able to spread the message that understanding politics does matter. And we will be certain to stay informed about what you've got going on as far as your campaign is concerned. If there's ever anything that you want to share with us, you just reach out. You've got our information. You just let us know.
absolutely. And if they want more information, they can go to www Antonio Jones 4NC. That's FOR, Antonio Jones 4NC.com.
Good deal. Have a wonderful day, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, bye bye. So, Mr. Floyd, there you have it. So now we have one candidate who's made their intent clear for the district, and that's exciting. I'm glad we both like him. I'm glad neither of us frowned our face up at that announcement. And to Pam, I know, girl, I'm just messing with you. And I'll tell you this: there are some people in this community who gave me a hard time when I was in office, but that comes with the territory. But I think that I gained their respect, and they most certainly gained mine because it let me know that they were paying attention to what was going on. So that's all we want, Mr. Floyd. That's it. What you want to leave our audience with today, sir?
My dog, my dog, my dog, my dog. If he bring it, he will carry it. And have a wonderful 4th of July. And just
Y-
don't help the North Carolina court system.
Yeah, and I'm going to stand on the same premise that I stood on last week. To desire justice apart from righteousness is a false pursuit. There is no justice apart from righteousness. We ask that you like, share, subscribe, and follow. Tell a friend to tell a friend. And listen, Mr. Floyd, enjoy your 4th of July and your debt collection free couple of days.
Thank you,
Listen,
Dee.
and if you throw a hot dog on the grill, let me know and tell
Well,
Mrs. Floyd I'll bring a baked bean.
I'm not gonna be doing. I'm not going to be feeding it because it requires money, and I
And
need.
grocery is high.
Yeah, and in closing to you, don't forget to thank the United States Postal System for having a lot of mail undelivered. So that means instead of me getting that Monday, I might get that done on Thursday. So have a good week, T.
You too, sir. And we will catch you all on the next episode. Oh, wait, that's the wrong one. Hold on.